Hey everyone, we're talking here briefly about salaries and benefits as we continue to look at different career fields and career options. As you think about where you want to go with your future life, you should consider in part the impact your decisions will have on what kind of salary you can expect to earn, as well as what other benefits you might receive in the jobs that you pursue. So first we talk about salaries. Salaries are determined by supply and demand. And in basic economics, we have a supply curve and a demand curve, and where those two intersect is what determines the price of a good or a service. In this case, it would determine in part the salaries that you can earn in a particular job. And what we find is that when demand increases for workers, that there tends to be a upward pressure on wages, so that when a particular field of work is increasingly demanded by the market, then salaries will begin to rise, in part because, at least initially, there aren't enough workers to go around to meet that need. What can also determine salaries is the relative supply of workers. So if there is a relatively smaller supply of workers than there was before, if there aren't as many people available to do the job than there were previously, then we would also see sort of an upward rise or pressure in prices. The opposite is also true. If there's a huge increase in the number of people who have the skills necessary to perform a particular job or career, then we would tend to see a downward pressure on their salaries. We see that sort of in reality. We can look at a job like cashier, which is dignified work, but it doesn't pay very much. And one of the reasons why it doesn't pay very much is because the supply of people capable of doing the job is extraordinarily large. The job of a cashier doesn't require a college degree or any sort of advanced education. And so most people in America who are over the age of 16, 17, 18 years of age have the skills necessary to be successful at a cashier job. So the supply of workers is enormous. And as a result, we tend to see that the wages for cashiers and other sort of low-skilled jobs are very low. But then we look at a job like doctor, in which there aren't very many people who have the skills to be a medical doctor. You go to school for that, and it takes years and years of study and practice to become good at being a doctor, especially if you have a job like a surgeon or something like that. So the overall supply of workers available to do that job is very small, particularly small relative to the demand for medicine, which is very high. And as a result, you see the price of a doctor, the wage of doctors, is very, very high because there just simply aren't enough people available to fulfill that role. So as you're looking at what careers you might want to pursue, salary is one of those determining factors. Are you looking for a high salary or not? It's not the only factor. There's other things to consider, but if you're concerned primarily about what you're going to get paid, one thing you should look at is which careers are in high demand, where there are not enough workers to go around. Now, it's not just salaries that people receive for the work they do. There are other incentives or benefits that people receive. So take a second and think about what are some other incentives or benefits that you might be aware of that your parents are offered by their employers, other than how much money they get paid every month. And take a second, press pause, and think about that for a moment. And then when you've given some thought to it, press play again, and we'll see what you come up with. There are a number of forms of compensation or benefits that people receive. There's monetary benefits in the form of bonuses, which are on top of any salary you earn, or profit sharing, so that if your company earns more money than it spends in a given year, maybe the company gives each worker some of that profit. There's tips if you're a waiter or a waitress, or overtime if you work longer than the agreed upon number of hours. So there are monetary financial benefits, but just as important, there are non-monetary benefits like health insurance or 401k matching, which is a retirement account, which we'll deal with later in the course. Some companies will offer a number of vacation days or sick days. They don't have to offer those, but they choose to offer them as a way to try and get the best workers to join their company. Maternity leave if you're having a baby, or parking if you're driving into town, or even childcare to help people who have small children want to be able to work in these different companies. So there are a number of other benefits that can be offered, and those are things that you should also consider when trying to decide not only what career to pursue, but which company to work for. And as you enter into the professional world, you can actually negotiate on many of these things and see if you can get a attractive package that will make the decision for you as to where you want to work in the future.